Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim Bottomley, president of Wellesley College. Those of you who didn't recognize me. What a good morning it's been so far. Thank you for being here to observe the anniversary of the College Hall fire and to celebrate the vitality of the college that emerged from the ashes 100 years ago this day. I want to begin by thanking all those who helped organize this special event, including all the members of the working group chaired by Ian Graham, director of the library collections. I also want to recognize Jackie Mastacchio, professor of art and chair of the art department, as well as provost and historian Andy Shannon, who have co-curated an exhibition featuring objects and documents that were salvaged from the College Hall. That exhibit opens today at the Davis Museum. Their expertise and guidance helped shape today's events, and I'm grateful to them both. In fact, as they planned the exhibition, culling artifacts from all over campus, I was delighted to learn that unbeknownst to me, I had been living and working among several objects that survived the fire. There was a small table in the anteroom of the president's office in Green Hall, and a large mirror hanging in the president's house, both of them originally from the Browning room of College Hall. And in my kitchen, a Wedgwood bowl and a Pugin platter that Henry and Pauline Durant purchased for the original dining hall in College Hall. So that was pretty fun finding all those things that had been around me all along. Given this connection to our history, I thought it only fitting that I dress the part of an Edwardian president today. I just want to say it's complicated being a president or a woman in those days because there's a cane, there are gloves. I've already lost one of the gloves. Turns out you can't turn pages when you have gloves on. But the good news was I'm not entirely authentic. I decided not to wear the corset for the occasion. I also want to recognize some special guests whose presence today is especially meaningful to us. Simmons College President Helen Drinan, Emerson College President Lee Pelton, Wheaton College Board Secretary Ellen Hallett, and Kathleen O'Connor, Vice President for Enrollment Management at LaSalle College. All of them are with us today, and thank you for being here on this special occasion. We are grateful to our friends and colleagues at Simmons, Emerson, Wheaton, and LaSalle, who were among 50 or so colleges and universities that reached out to support us after the fire. That support took many forms. As President Drinan just read, a Wellesley alumna from the class of 1900, who was secretary at Simmons in 1914, generously volunteered her time and services to Wellesley after the fire. I'm also pleased to recognize Wellesley Fire Department Chief Rick Delory, Wellesley Assistant Fire Chief Jeff Peterson, and Natick Fire Department Chief Rick White. These departments responded to the scenes of the fire 100 years ago. So thank you all for being here as well. So by now, most of you know the story of the fire that destroyed College Hall. The story most worth telling isn't about the destruction that occurred, but rather about what transpired in the hours, weeks, and months that followed. That story is a story of resilience, courage, and resourcefulness, a story of a community that cared so deeply for this place that it bonded together to ensure that even in the face of catastrophe, the college would endure. A century ago, indeed 100 years ago today to the hour, Wellesley students, faculty, and staff gathered in this same chapel for their usual service and to support one another just hours after their beloved College Hall burned down. You can imagine the emotions in this room as President Ellen Fitz Pendleton, Wellesley class of 1886, said that there was work to be done, that the first duty of all was to rally around the college's academic life, and that no obstacle would stand in the way of finishing the academic year. And the college was able to construct a temporary classroom building in just 3 weeks, enabling students to finish the spring semester and allowing the class of 1914 to graduate on schedule. It is also worth mentioning that as College Hall burned in those early morning hours, students organized themselves into an orderly line to pass books, files, and other valuables down Severance Hill to the library. That image is, to me, a distillation of what Wellesley is. I picture in my mind that long line of young women, tired and disheveled, many still barefoot and dressed in long nightgowns, and in a coordinated line stretching all the way from the raging fire to the library. They were not huddling fearfully, waiting to be ministered to. In the face of sudden crisis and unparalleled danger, they were taking action, courageously doing everything they could to make a bad situation better, to save what could be saved. They were Wellesley women. That sense of resolve extended to our alumni. When we mounted a daunting fundraising campaign to rebuild the college, our alumni and friends rose to the challenge. In fact, the fire united our alumni in ways like never before, forever instilling in our alums and our students a tremendous sense of ownership and responsibility to this special place. Thanks to those successful fundraising efforts 100 years ago, Wellesley was able to lay the foundation for Tower Court just 9 months after College Hall burned, an incredible feat. These events shaped the course of Wellesley's history. The fact that Wellesley took the opportunity not to rebuild College Hall, but to reimagine what this college could be in the future is an important lesson for us today, especially as we renew and reimagine our living, learning, and working spaces for the 21st century. When President Pendleton addressed the college community here 100 years ago, she also used the moment to remind the community that our college isn't the buildings. Our college is the students, the faculty, and the community. This message remains true today. Our beautiful campus landscape and our lovely and iconic buildings are an important part of the Wellesley experience, but they alone are not Wellesley. You, our students, our faculty, our staff, and our alumni, our community, you are Wellesley, and don't ever forget that. In the most important ways, the Wellesley of today is very similar to the Wellesley of the early 19th century. When Ellen Fitz Pendleton was inaugurated in 1911, she said, "The dual purpose of a college was preparing students to be scholars and training them for citizenship." In 1931, while she was still president of the college, President Pendleton wrote, "If education is to be living and vital, it must always be experimental. If we can train our students in independence of thought, if we can convince them that education must continue as long as life itself, if we can show them that to be really alive is to live an intellectual life, we shall have reached our goal and succeeded in our experiment." Not much has changed. Today, 100 years later, the language we use might be slightly different, but the core of what it means to be Wellesley, what it means to be educated in the liberal arts, to be open to independent thought and inquiry, remains the same. Part of what Wellesley does so well is preserve our past, our traditions, our mission, and our values while moving forward with the times. Another important message of this day can be summed up in the words of President Pendleton, who wrote in 1914, "No fire can take from us our heritage, invisible but steadfast." I think she'd be pleased to know that the College Hall could not and did not strip Wellesley of its essence. I also think she would not be surprised. Today, as we imagine and reimagine what the future of Wellesley can be, let us reflect on our magnificent history and the lessons to be learned. We owe a great deal to the Wellesley of 1914. The extraordinary commitment and action then allowed our Wellesley of now to thrive. It is our great responsibility today to pay it forward, our great responsibility to do all we can to ensure that 100 years from today, in 2114, the president of Wellesley will be standing here dressed in those funny clothes that we all wore in 2014, and she will be thanking us for our unflagging commitment to Wellesley. I now invite you to stay for the rest of today's program, eat, drink, write a letter for the time capsule. And the time capsule, by the way, is right back there at a long table. You probably didn't see it on your way in. We'd love to have some of your thoughts expressed there. And then listen to some more letters from the 1914 students and faculty. I hope you'll be able to join us for the afternoon tea from 3 to 5 at the Davis Museum to celebrate the opening of the College Hall Fire exhibition with remarks from Andy Shannon beginning just after 4 p.m. Thank you again for being here today for this wonderful event.